In the early 1900s, a new ship was built. It was a time of great invention and progress, you know. People really believed they could achieve anything. This ship became a symbol of that belief. Its name was the RMS Titanic. It was the largest moving object ever made by human hands. The company that built it, the White Star Line, wanted to create the most luxurious and safest ship in the world. They were so confident in their creation that, honestly, many people began to call the Titanic unsinkable. This idea spread far and wide, making everyone feel that a journey on this magnificent vessel was the safest trip one could ever take. It was a promise of a new age of travel across the vast Atlantic Ocean. The Titanic was constructed in Belfast, Ireland. Thousands of workers spent years building it, putting in a tremendous amount of effort. They used millions of rivets to hold its giant steel plates together. The ship was designed with special safety features. It had 16 watertight compartments, which were like separate rooms in the bottom of the ship. If the ship was damaged, these compartments could be sealed off to stop water from flooding the rest of the vessel. The builders believed that even if 4 of these compartments flooded, the ship would still stay afloat. This advanced design was the main reason for its reputation. People saw the Titanic not just as a ship, but as a triumph of modern engineering and a promise of absolute safety on the high seas. On April 10, 1912, the Titanic was ready for its first voyage. It departed from Southampton, England, heading for New York City. Crowds gathered to watch the giant ship leave the dock. It was a truly spectacular sight. The ship was as long as 3 football fields and as tall as an 11-story building. Its 4 towering funnels, or smokestacks, stood out against the sky, a symbol of its immense power. For the people on board and those watching from the shore, it was a moment of great excitement and pride. They were witnessing history being made, the start of a journey for what was believed to be the greatest ship ever built. The idea of the Titanic being unsinkable was more than just a marketing slogan. It was a deeply held belief. Newspapers and magazines wrote articles praising its size, its strength, and its advanced safety systems. Passengers who bought tickets felt a sense of security that was unheard of for ocean travel at the time. They were not just booking a trip, they were booking a place on a ship that they believed could conquer the ocean itself. This powerful idea of invincibility would make the events that followed even more shocking and tragic. The legend of the unsinkable ship was born, but it would soon be tested by the cold, dark waters of the North Atlantic. Life on board the Titanic was like living in a floating city. The ship was divided into different classes, first, second and third class. Each class offered a very different experience. First class was for the wealthiest passengers. Their tickets cost thousands of dollars, which was a fortune at the time. They included some of the richest people in the world, like John Jacob Astor IV and Benjamin Guggenheim. Their quarters were incredibly luxurious, with spacious suites, private bathrooms and elegant decorations. They had access to a grand dining room, a swimming pool, a gymnasium and beautiful lounges where they could relax and socialize. Life for them was one of extreme comfort and splendor. Second class offered a level of comfort that was similar to first class on many other ships of the era. The passengers in second class were often professionals, like teachers, authors and clergy. Their cabins were comfortable and well furnished, though smaller than those in first class. They had their own library and a beautiful dining room, where they enjoyed delicious meals. They could walk on their own deck and enjoy the fresh sea air. While not as opulent as first class, the experience was still one of great quality and elegance. For these passengers, the journey was a wonderful adventure, a chance to travel across the ocean in style and comfort. Third class, also known as steerage, was where most of the passengers travelled. These were mainly immigrants from different parts of Europe. They were heading to America to start new lives, filled with hopes and dreams for a better future. Their tickets were the cheapest, and their accommodations were much simpler. They slept in small, crowded cabins with bunk beds, often sharing with strangers. They had their own dining area, where they were served simple but hearty food. Despite the basic conditions, there was a sense of community and excitement in third class. People played music, danced and shared stories of the new lives they hoped to build across the ocean. Regardless of their class, passengers had many things to do. During the day, people would walk along the decks, play games like shuffleboard, or simply sit in deck chairs wrapped in blankets provided by the ship's crew. The first-class passengers could use the gymnasium, which had modern exercise equipment like rowing machines. In the evenings, the ship came alive with music and socializing. The different classes mostly stayed in their own areas, but the sounds of orchestras and bands could be heard from the lounges. It was a world of its own, moving steadily across the calm, cold ocean, with each person on board living out their own unique story. For the first few days, the Titanic's journey was smooth and uneventful. The weather was clear and the ocean was unusually calm, like a sheet of glass. Passengers settled into their routines, enjoying the luxury and novelty of the grand ship. On the night of April 14, 1912, the air grew much colder. The lookouts in the crow's nest high above the ship watched the dark horizon. They had received several warnings about icebergs in the area from other ships. However, these warnings did not seem to cause great alarm on the Titanic's bridge. The ship continued to sail at a high speed, slicing through the dark, icy water as the night went on. Just before midnight, a lookout named Frederick Fleet spotted something ahead. It was a large, dark shape, darker than the starry sky, an iceberg. He rang the warning bell 3 times and telephoned the bridge, shouting, "Iceberg, right ahead!" The officer on duty immediately ordered the engines to be reversed and the ship to be turned as hard as it could. But the Titanic was enormous and moving fast. It could not turn quickly enough to avoid the massive block of ice. Instead of a direct crash, the ship scraped along the side of the iceberg. Many passengers felt only a slight shudder and didn't realize the danger they were in. Below the waterline, the iceberg had done terrible damage. It had punched holes and created long gashes along the ship's steel hull. Seawater began pouring into the first 6 of the watertight compartments. The ship's designer, Thomas Andrews, was on board for the maiden voyage. After inspecting the damage, he delivered the grim news to Captain Smith. The Titanic could stay afloat with 4 compartments flooded, but not with 6. He calculated that the ship had only about an hour or 2 before it would sink completely. The unsinkable ship was doomed. The promise of safety was broken and a night of terror was about to begin for everyone on board. Panic did not set in immediately. At first, many passengers did not believe the ship was actually sinking. Some even joked about the ice that had fallen onto the deck. The crew began to prepare the lifeboats, but there was a serious problem. The Titanic did not have enough lifeboats for everyone on board. It only had enough for about half of the 2,200 people. As the ship's front end, or bow, began to dip lower into the water, the reality of the situation became clear. The crew started to load women and children into the lifeboats first. In the confusion and disbelief, many of the first lifeboats were launched only half full, leaving hundreds of people behind on the sinking ship. As the Titanic sank deeper into the icy Atlantic, the scene on its slanting decks became more chaotic and desperate. The ship's band continued to play music, a brave attempt to keep people calm. But as the angle of the ship grew steeper, it became harder to stand. People clung to railings, trying not to slide into the freezing water. The ship's lights flickered and then went out, plunging everyone into darkness. At 2:20 a.m. on April 15, 1912, the great ship broke apart and finally slipped beneath the waves. More than 1,500 people were left in the water with no hope of survival in the freezing temperatures. The rescue ship, the Carpathia, arrived hours later, but it was too late for most. The sinking of the Titanic was a global tragedy that sent shockwaves around the world. People could not understand how such a modern and supposedly safe ship could sink on its very first voyage. Inquiries were held in both the United States and Britain to find out what went wrong. The investigations revealed many failures. The ship was traveling too fast through an area known to have ice. The lookouts did not have binoculars, which might have helped them spot the iceberg sooner. Most importantly, the ship did not have enough lifeboats for all its passengers and crew, a flaw that cost hundreds of lives. The disaster led to major changes in maritime safety laws. New rules were created to make sure that all ships carried enough lifeboats for every single person on board. Regulations required ships to hold lifeboat drills so that passengers and crew would know what to do in an emergency. The International Ice Patrol was established to monitor icebergs in the North Atlantic and warn ships of any danger. These new laws were a direct result of the Titanic tragedy, and they have helped make sea travel much safer for everyone. The loss of the Titanic served as a powerful and painful lesson for the entire world. Today, more than a century later, the story of the Titanic continues to fascinate and move us. It is a powerful reminder of the dangers of overconfidence and the importance of respecting the power of nature. The ship's tale is also a human story filled with acts of heroism, sacrifice and loss. We remember the people who were on board, the wealthy and the poor, the crew and the passengers, all caught in the same terrible event. By studying the Titanic, we learn valuable lessons about technology, human error and the need for humility. The Unsinkable legend rests at the bottom of the ocean, but its story lives on, teaching us to always be prepared and never take safety for granted.